Hello everyone, welcome back. I today wanted to create something a little bit different. I'm making kind of like a spring crate using an old Stampin' Up die, and I'm going to use parts and pieces from different die sets. So I've got the tiny gift box die set from Lawn Fawn, and I'm using the bow from that. I'm then going to use the mini pop-up box and using this like an inlay heart in there. I'm using the inside piece, and then from the Shadowbox Park and Spring add-ons, I'm using the squirrels, the flower border, the grass border, and some of the butterflies and tulip heads. So for my squirrel, I cut two, but because I had textured cardstock, I actually cut one the way you would normally cut it, and then one I turned the cardstock over so that I had texture on both sides of the squirrel, and mostly because I wanted to add cover in that's not the right word, like cover his eye so that you couldn't see through the eye is what I was trying to do. So I basically want to wedge a piece of cardstock, this is just dark grey cardstock, between the two squirrels so that the eye can be seen from both sides. It's kind of like you can turn the box both ways. Now, in hindsight, I should have done that with the flowers and the grass and everything. The butterflies, didn't think that far. I was just thinking about the eye on the squirrel. But anyway, so I did the same thing with the little acorn. I cut the acorn twice, three times. One out of some paler sort of, I think it's Nina Desert Storm cardstock, and some dark brown cardstock, and then just cut the nut top off so that I could add it to it to just give it a bit of something so it looks more like a little acorn, if that makes any sense. And then again did it on both sides so that I could sandwich, that's the word, sandwich the acorn and the little grey cardstock for the eye between the two squirrel pieces. Like I say, in hindsight, I should have done it on all of these pieces so that you can then have the box facing whichever way you want it to face. But I didn't do that, and in hindsight I shouldn't have bothered, because it just looks cute sat on the shelf facing the front. So at least I think so. Anyway, so the Shadowbox pieces, so this grass piece and the flower border, are meant for the shadow boxes that Lawn Fawn have, but I actually wanted to see, and they do fit really well into this little crate that I had of Stampin' Ups from ages ago, and so that was just a happy lucky find. So you could do something similar and create a little box that is the width between the two score lines that it will create. So where the stitching on the flowers, on that sort of hill bit or curved bit of that, where those stitch lines stop, there's a little score line, so that's the piece that you'll use to stick to the inside of the box. If you had a box that you could measure and make that would fit that, you could do the same thing. I just happened to have this die, and I thought it'd be cute to put it into a crate instead of a shadow box. So for the flowers that are like little flowers and not tulips, if that makes sense, or little daisies, I guess, I cut part of the flower off so that I could add these little hearts, because originally this started out as being a sort of Valentine's-y love themed little crate. And I had this vision that there'd be all these flowers, these heart flowers coming out of this box, like loads of them. Didn't quite work out that way. So this is what I did in the end. But I still like the little heart-topped flowers, or the hearts on top of the flowers, as just something different. You could easily just make little red flowers if it was more Valentine's themed or love themed. But yeah. I went with the little yellow tulips as well on this, and the hearts. And I like the hearts, like I say. I also am going to do this twice. I've got two of these and one grassy border that I'm going to add in. The grassy border I also made in a different shade of green, just for a bit of variation, don't have to do that either. You can do it all the same colour. There's also no bling or glitteriness or splatter or shimmery or anything like that I'm going to add to this. This is something you can do if you've just got loads of cardstock, like scrap pieces, and just very simple, but I still think it looked really cute. So there's a lot more you can do to it. You can add, if you've got like textured or like stamps that look like texture, like a woven basket or bricks or wood or whatever, you can add extra things like that to any die cuts that you create. But I just wanted to keep this really simple. This was already going to be quite a long process to do. This is not a mass production kind of thing, but it was still tons of fun to do, and I'm really glad I did it. The butterflies, I cut out 4 of each of the colour, 8 of each of the colours, but in the opposite colours, if that makes sense. Or did I do 6? No, I did 6. So I did 3 of each colour, and then I did the opposite in the smaller butterfly so that I could layer them just for something fun. So, which I'm doing now. You can also pop the little wings, the little butterflies. You can actually use because I'm only gluing it in the middle of the butterfly, I could lift the wings up just for a bit of extra dimension. And that would look really cute as well. And then all of these, just to let the glue have a couple of minutes to dry, I'm putting them under an acrylic block. Just helps that drying time, so you don't have to sit there holding it. And then for the bow, I used a few things. I'm trying to, and I'm so sorry I'm off camera here. I'm trying to like roll the what will be the bow bit around like a pen or an embossing tool, something that's rounded on the edges, so that it helps to give that roundness to the bow. It was still quite stiff cardstock, so it didn't totally work that way, so I will go in and try and fix that later on once it's completely dry. So the 2 outer edges come into the middle, and then this little taggy bit kind of wraps around it, and that's what sort of forms what looks like a bow. So it's got the little centerpiece all in one. It's so easy. And then there is the extra ribbon that will go on the sides, which I'll show you later on. So now we're going to attempt to put this box together. Like I say, these aren't actually meant to go together. Like, this isn't a normal setup for these pieces, but I made it work, and I'm really chuffed that I made it work the way, and I'm glad it worked out the way it did, if that makes sense, because it does look kind of cute, and it's sat on my one of my units, and it looks sweet every time I look at it and walk past it. It's like, oh yeah, I do that. So be proud of the stuff that you make. You guys make some awesome stuff. I've seen some of you guys, and the work that you've done. So first thing, I'm going to grab one of my scoreboard. Can't talk today. And although there are score lines when you die cut any of the dies, I kind of reinforce them so that it's just easier for me to score, because my eyesight's also not so good. So and I want those score lines to score nicely so that there's not too many crinkles when I score them, if that made any sense. I'm not making a lot of sense today. And the same goes for the little tabs on each of the flowers and the grass border. It's just the tabs that we need to be able to stick these to the inside of the box. Great. So I'm folding all of those, and I'm using a bone folder as well, again to reinforce them, or I will do in a minute. And again, apologies, I was a little off camera here. So just getting all the score lines folded. Now for the shadow box, it's very easy to put together because you don't have a bottom to it, because it's a shadow box card, so there's no base as such. Whereas this has a base, so I had to kind of excuse me, I had to kind of figure out the best way to actually get this stuck together. In the end, I actually trimmed one of the base panels or base pieces, what will be the bottom of the box. I actually trimmed it at an angle so that it could fit in much easier, and it was a lot easier to actually fit the bottom together. But I think my camera, I think it switched off at that point, so I don't think I filmed that part of it. But just so you know, just trim from the outside edge, just take like a wedge out so that it just is not straight line on straight line, if that makes sense, so that hopefully it will go into the bottom part of the box much easier. So what I'm doing is, because again these aren't the like outside edge is slightly higher, the sides of the box are slightly higher where they're like the little handles will be. I've just lined it up at the bottom and then stuck the first side on. And now I'm going to get some tape onto the little tabs on all the grass and the flower borders. And I'm going to line up and stick these in one side at a time. And what you want to do is line it up on the side that's got the little handle. So the piece, the shorter on the crate, the shorter piece, if that makes sense. So not the one with the long strips that are cut out the sides, the bits that have on what look like handles for the crate. You'll see in a second. So on this short piece here. So I found the easiest way, and I was also lining up because I didn't want too much of that to stick out above the side of the box, like where the handle is. So I lined up the bottom edge where I wanted it, and then just with the sticky off the tab, I then just tucked it in once it was where I wanted it to be. At the end of the day, it's paper. It will manipulate a little bit more if you need to sort of reinforce that with a bone folder. So I just found this the easiest way to do it, for me anyway. And then again, just trying to line them up best I can and reinforcing that sticky. So the next thing is to get the other end of the tabs unstuck, the backing taken off. Oh, it's been a good day. And then what I'm going to do is, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can either lie them flat like that and try and have the tape back on itself, but I found this easier. So line them all up, tape exposed, and then rub the end, the other side, onto it so that it's stuck to it, if that makes any sense. And then you will need to stick the other side panel on. So take the other short edge, totally off camera here, sorry. And again, put some tape on that edge. And then lie the tab flat. And then just fold the whole thing flat. When it's flat like this, it looks really complicated, and I'm doing a terrible job of actually explaining this, but it is actually really quite easy to put together. I just had to finagle a bit because it's a crate and it's not meant for these dies, but like I say, I made it work and it looks really cute, I think, I hope. So, hopefully this makes some sense. So for the base, there are 2 more tabs that need to have some tape on them. And one of the bigger pieces, if I'll actually come into camera here, one of the bigger pieces of what will be the base of the box is where I cut a little wedge out and then stuck it together. These are the little butterflies. I do have some acetate on there. It's just old packaging. And I just stuck to the back of the butterflies with a glue dot and then put an extra piece of strong tape on the front, or what will be the front of the butterfly, on the bottom of the acetate piece. And this will make it so that they look like they are flying in the air. Well, that's the idea anyway. Excuse me. So I've got my little squirrel, and I've put some adhesive on the front of him, which I know doesn't make sense, but I'm going to stick him onto the back of the grass layer, so he looks like he's in the grass, which I thought was cute. Isn't it cute? So yeah, you can see the back of you can see the back of the squirrel, but the back of the flowers looks a bit naff. So if you wanted to, you could also add that, and sort of double that up. Like I say, this is not a quick project, but it was cute, and I was really happy with the way it turned out. So now all the butterflies, because you've got different lengths of, they were the same length really of the acetate, but you can prop them in and out at different heights depending on where you want your butterflies to look like they're flying. I wouldn't go super high, at the highest point sort of thing, because the acetate, the cardstock's kind of heavy, so they do sort of wibble and wobble a little more than maybe you want them to, but it works really, really nicely. And then what I try to do is just alternate, because I've got the opposite, a dark on a light and a light on a dark. I just tried to make sure that they were kind of evenly spaced, so you didn't have too much of the same next to each other, just because. So like so. And then one of the extra ones I put in the front because I thought there was a gap there and I had an extra butterfly. So isn't that sweet? I just think it's so lovely. And you could also crimp some paper, or some tissue paper or something like that, and just sort of finely cut it or something and pop it in the bottom so it's like really full, just so it's just a little decoration for spring, Easter time. Like I say, it was supposed to be a little love thing, but it didn't turn out that way, even though I like the little hearts. And I do think in hindsight, which is a wonderful thing, that actually the grass and the flowers could have probably come up a little higher. I think I was thinking of the handles on the side of the crate more than anything, but it's a start. I will try and do some more with this little crate now that I know that these dies will actually work in them really quite easily, and hopefully next time I'll be able to explain it a bit better. Hopefully this was somewhat helpful, and hopefully that if you have these dies that you try this out, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one, guys. Bye for now.